Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews, and today I have two special guests on here I'm really excited about. It's rare that I get to talk to people who have over 40 years experience. Each one, so you can add that up. We can make big numbers, but it is just a wealth of knowledge that you're going to get today. So I'm excited about that. Without further delay, I will let y'all jump on here and introduce yourself. Bob, we'll start with you.
Yeah, my name is Bob Jennings. I currently am a senior training instructor for Hydro University, which is a new endeavor for the Hydro Inc. Organization. And knowledge has always been a big part of our business, training our customers and having them understand what we do with pumps as far as re-rates and efficiency improvements and whatnot. Yeah, when COVID hit, we kind of, Mr. Harris decided that we needed to change the format. And so that kind of birthed Hydro University, which is a college level university for anything related to rotating pumping equipment. So that's what I'm doing now.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive into a lot of that. But Ken,
Yeah.
And my name is Ken Babusiak. I'm Vice President of Industrial Sales here at Hydro. It's my 22nd year here, my 44th year in the business. And I primarily focus on the steel mills here in Northwest Indiana and the Chicago area. I do get involved a little bit with the oil and the gas accounts, but my forte and most of my attention is spent to the steel mills, not just here, but actually all over the country. So
wonderful. And we're going to talk a lot about that, y'all. So buckle in because we're going to sit and really learn. I'm excited to learn from y'all. But I want to just stop and talk about how you even found yourself into this industry. I think both of you have some family connection there. But I think it's so important for people to know, how do we even get into the pump industry? And it's different for everyone, but y'all have some similarities in your story too.
Yeah, it's funny. I was a young kid, 25 years old, finishing up my engineering degree at the University of Illinois. I actually transferred from Champaign-Urbana up to Chicago Circle, so I was going to be downtown Chicago. And at the time, my father was the Midwest Regional Sales Manager for Borg-Warner Fluid Drives. And fluid drives are used in the pumping industry, especially in the municipal market. And Hydro happened to be the local representative for Borg-Warner fluid drives. And when my dad found out that they were looking for an application engineer to expand their business, he suggested that I go intern there. And that was be 49 years ago this May. So
I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
it's just been an amazing journey, the whole transformation. It's just I'm gobsmacked at what we're capable of doing today versus what we could do way back when I started. When I tell people, Charli, that was back when the attire was, wearing a three-piece suit. It wasn't enough just a suit, coat, and tie. You had to have the button-up vest. So I jokingly say I felt like Kenny on South Park, that if I fell over, I wouldn't be able to get myself back up again. But that's it's just, the industry has just been, this is everything that I dreamed of when I started.
I love that. Ken, what about you? I know you've got some family ties in there.
I'm a Northwest Indiana guy, but my father was from South Chicago, so I had two large families. I had 16 sets of aunts and uncles. I got 47 first cousins, so I grew up and they were all machinists. I got three uncles still in machine shops, next generation now, in the Northwest Indiana. So I grew up around machining business. Wasn't really attracted to it. Didn't really care a whole lot about it. I was going to Calumet College, living with my grandmother while I was going to school. And my uncle said I needed some help over at we were all forced to work at the shop. So I got my first exposure into going into the steel mills, picking up some of the jobs. And as I became a little more educated, a little more familiar with the steel mills, I got involved with some of the estimating and just got to know the mills very well. And lo and behold, when I got done with school and I was thinking about, I was all done with the machine shop, and there was a company who'd been around for a long time called Nagel Pumps in Chicago Heights, slurry pump manufacturer, a very respected company. And I went to a headhunter and I said, I'd like to be in industrial sales. He said, well, you got some pump background from working on these little pumps. So I went for this interview. He said, I want you to go for the interview just for the experience of the interview. He says, they're probably not going to hire you. I said, 7 guys there already. I'm like, okay, I'll go. So I went for the interview, and I was Bill Hine, great guy, Don Lorenz, rest of the soul, great guy. They were the managers there. We had an hour long interview. And then a week went by, I never heard back from anybody. And then on a Friday, the gentleman called me from the employment agency. His name was Joe Witt, and he says, "Ken," he says, "I don't know how to tell you this, but he says they're going to take a chance on you. They want to hire you." And he basically says, "I don't know what they see in you, but they're going to hire you." And well, thank you, I think, And after my career started on the inside desk at Nagel Pumps as an application engineer, and they told me in about 6 months they may give me a territory, but then because of some deaths and guys leaving and other things, next thing you know, I got 24 states and all of Canada. So I'm traveling all over the world, doing seminars and selling Nagel Pumps. I did that for 6 years, and they asked me to start up another division for them, a repair division and a quasi repair division distributorship. I did that. That worked out successfully for a couple of years. And then I met the people from Wadsworth Pumps who were the Ingersoll Rand people. So I went to the big time. And here I am. And then met Mr. Harris. We were competitors, and I met him 22 years ago, and he called me in and just asked me he was so neat. He said, "I see what everybody else doesn't see in the world." And he wanted to triple the size of the company, not double, triple the size of the company. He was, I think, 64 years old. I think I was 48. And I came home and told my wife, "I think I'm going to go to work." She says, "You're crazy." And I says, "No, I'm going to." The fire in his eyes, you could just see it. You could see it in his face. And we did it. We did it. We tripled the size of the company. Everybody around the world that helped. We did it.
So Charlie, what's interesting is Ken and I were competitors for the first 15 years of our life.
No, Bob was my idol. I wanted to be like Bob when I grew up. Seriously, I wanted to be like him.
Well, I'll tell you, that story and the passion and the vision, right? You talk a lot about the vision and belief that we can do it. And we talk about it all the time. Pumps are vital to life. We have to have this equipment, and we have to be able to service it. And, I think that is huge that you are a global company and you're able to do that. A couple things I want to talk about. I mean, one, first, of course, the passion for the people and how you're mentoring and kind of bringing up the next generation. I know that's something that y'all want to talk about. But Bob, when we went through the pandemic and y'all shifted into education in this kind of digital, I mean, you were shifting digital in all kinds of different ways. This technology has allowed us to do that. You've seen it firsthand, both on the equipment side and on the training side. Tell us a little bit more about how you went about that.
Well, training has always been a part of our business because of what we do, Charlie. Being an aftermarket support for pumps, we're always, when I go into a customer, what I'm presenting them is what can I do to improve the reliability of your equipment, to increase the efficiency, improve the reliability, and oftentimes, if you work with me, we can do both. We can both save you energy costs while improving reliability. So we have always been doing training because a lot of the things that we need to do with the equipment, the buyer has to buy into it. So they have to have some ownership in that. In fact, it's funny. I just happened to come across my original stack of vellums that I used to do for my, for the first training sessions when we were using an overhead projector, and just do. So yeah, it has really transitioned from that. But so I've always been, as part of my duties here at Hydro, is go around from our service centers and customers doing in-person training seminars. And when COVID hit, that just stopped. I mean, just put the brakes on that, no more in person. And now we are clamoring, well, how can we keep this going? And so we decided that we were going to try and move over to, an electronic format, electronic platform. And yeah, we went through some growing pains there initially. I think I can remember the very first webinar that we did. I think we had 30 people on there, and 25 of them were HydroAir employees disguised as attendees. But it's grown from there. The last webinar that we did, the Wednesday webinar that we do on a free every Wednesday, we do a 90-minute webinar. Last one we had 752 people, registered, globally.
Well, part of it is that you make it fun, Bob. I've seen some of the commercials before, so you make it fun.
I keep threatening Matt that he's gonna cross the line one of these times with one of those commercials. I can be self-deprecating, but there's a limit.
That's right.
But you know what, Charlie, that we've been in the industry. It's fun. I'm enthusiastic about the pump industry. I love the changes that are being implemented right now. I mean, the sky is the limit. When I first started off way back when, 49 years ago, it was a very stagnant industry to where, this is how we do things, and it's very set in stone. It was an archaic process, to get castings from a foundry was a 3 to 4 month process with many iterations in between. You used to abdicate all of the design to a pattern maker who was some little curmudgeon that had thick glasses, and he'd scurry off with your design and disappear for 6 weeks. And then he'd come back with core boxes and, in patterns and say, here, this will get you where you need. And now we're designing impellers on the fly, I mean, just instantly. So that transformation, this is everything that I hoped for when I was back on that desk, starting off with my add, subtract, multiply, and divide calculator on a drafting board, because we were still doing drawings with lead pencils. And to see where we are today is just been amazing transformation. And so that's kind of what I'm doing now with the training seminars. It's trying to, I've got 40 plus years of practical application out in the field. And trust me, theory is one thing, but how you make things work in the field is a completely different thing. And so to be able to bring the new hires, the young engineers that are coming up behind us, they've heard about pumps in their classes. And I tell them, I said, I remember what that's like. In my fluid dynamics class, pumps was 3 paragraphs in chapter 3, and then we moved on to something else. And it didn't look anything like what we deal with in a real life basis. So to help make that transition is what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, and that's what we have to do. There's a gap there between the student and the workforce that y'all
Oh,
are
absolutely.
definitely going to help. Ken, I know this is part of your journey too, that passion for the children. I say children. That's because I have. That's because I have a college student.
That too.
Mine is going to college right now, and I'm thinking of him, I guess. But as we do bring in that workforce, and then we're excited about the steel industry too. Lots of buzz going on and an event coming up. But tell us how you're mentoring, how you're kind of. We're having that history lesson today, but what is it for you, Ken?
Well, what else? Now, again, Bob is the professor, and has always been, and will always be. But when I first came aboard about 20 years ago, we started having seminars, and it wasn't really my idea. Hydro had done hit or miss seminars more for the utility industry. And Mr. Harris, being the mentor that he was to all of us, he said, Ken, I want you to start doing these. So we started doing one-day seminars here because of our close proximity to the steel mills, Northwest Indiana. It was easy to have 30 or 40 guys come up, sometimes 20, come on 10 or classes. And Bob would do them, and we'd have different people doing the seminars. One-day seminars, a lot of young guys coming, a lot of young people. And started off doing that. And we did that for a good 15, 20 years. Then we tried something a little bit different. We started doing what we call a summit. And the summit was more targeted to what it is I thought it'd be a great idea to bring all of our customers and the managers as decision makers and let them present on something on reliability to each other. Nothing from hydroware.
Yeah.
And we did a series of those, one pertaining just to descaling pumps. We would just do ones on big vertical pumps. So we had 4 or 5 of these. And they were tremendous assets for us to bring in from all industries, all the KBIs together, and they would present to each other.
Well, who doesn't like to share their knowledge, right? The things
it was knowledge and their experience, and the feedback with the room was just incredible with the energy and the camaraderie. And we made that a 2-day event, and we had great success with that. And now Bob's taking it to a whole nother level with the podcast, obviously, and the website. But we've always been, Mr. Harris was always big on educating the customers. A lot of young guys coming here now, and there was a period of time, Charlie, where I think there was a 20-year span where there was no hiring in the steel industry. So you had guys in their 50s and kids in their early 20s. There was no hiring, and that gap was going to be a problem for them. And it did. It's more apparent now too, where it's hard to find young guys coming in. And I think what happens is because of the abruptness of the way some of these people leave or lay people off or whatever, there's no transition of the knowledge. from the older guys to the young. There's none.
Yeah, all that tribal knowledge
Tribal
goes right out the
knowledge.
gate.
Yeah. And this equipment, Charlie, 60, 70 years old, some of these pumps. And we had a young fella come in. He was it breaks my heart. He was a great kid. He's just a great kid. And he went to Purdue Calumet up here, and he worked in the mill for 6 years. And when he graduated 2 years ago and was hired on full-time to be an area supervisor, went to see him, and he says, "Hey, Ken, I'm leaving." And I'm like, "You're leaving?" He says, "Yeah." He says, I went to school to be an engineer, and I wanted to build things and design things. And he says, not sit here and worry about fixing 60-year-old pumps. And he left. He got a job down in Tennessee as a maintenance manager. So there's that takes place too. There's nothing glamorous about this industry. There really isn't. Okay. And trying to keep their interest up. And but we see a lot of the younger guys coming in. Most of them are engineers now when they come in, graduate engineers. And they come in and they'll work there for 4 or 5, 6 years. And then they have to make a decision. Do they want to stay or they want to go off to something else? So,
Yeah.
so the steel industry has their hands full with keeping those people on board.
Right. And being able to see kind of the future of this too, with all of the technology and that there's going to be a lot of cross conversations. Now, there's still going to have the mechanical piece of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But there are so many roles within the space too that aren't going to look like traditional roles too. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about hearing about that and how we're going to continue to use that within our industry. But yeah, you gotta also like the mechanical side of the business.
Yeah.
And I'm always
Yeah.
excited about it, learning it. But is it going to get repetitious, like you said, and kind of burn out with that? So how can we continue to keep people engaged if that is the role? That's
Well,
the
what? One thing, it's interesting because during COVID, we couldn't get into the mills. Everything was shut down pretty much for a number of weeks. So Mr. Harris thought it'd be a good idea to get on one of these websites where they train us on sales techniques and stuff. And it was one of the comments that one of our nuclear people made was, what happens when all these older gentlemen leave, and we have this new rash of young folks coming in, this new generation. He says, you lose the continuity, the friendship, the relationship. But you know what? We kind of found our niche because it's like, well, you know what? Yeah, you could be looked at as a dinosaur or whatever, or you could be a resource for them because they've got 60, 50, 60-year-old equipment. And we know that stuff inside out. We've worked on it for all our lives pretty much. And it's worked out well for us. I think even when we have our dinners, they're probably the guys at my table last night, they're all probably in their 30s. And I just turned 70. So, I mean, you still, have to be a
but
resource.
isn't that the part that when you start talking about the different companies at the start, right? And like mergers and acquisitions and all these things that have happened, some of these brands people don't even know about. So you run into that pump and you're like, you can't even Google it because it doesn't exist anymore. Uh,
Right.
that
There was one guy there last night, Charlie. There was one guy there, older guy there last night. He's worked for the one company for all his career, 9 different names for the company.
wow.
It's changed 9 different times. And he
You know,
never
and
said,
that is
and I was never
just
laid off once. He was never laid off once in his 40 years.
well, that's the piece, right? So there's all that knowledge and everything. There's also this industry has jobs that are last. It is essential. We have to have good
Mhm.
workers to maintain
Mhm.
our lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
And so if we don't have any bigger purpose than taking care of each other, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it is. And I
Sure.
think that some of the younger generation can get behind that for sure, regardless of what that work actually is. I always say, I try to get people, okay, I want them to enjoy their work but there's always a piece of your job that you don't like to do, like in every single one, no matter what
Unlike Bob and I, see, we're from the old school. If you like what you're doing, if you love what you're doing for a living, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
That's right. That's right. And so you do. And so I'm excited that, they have the resources, definitely resources with y'all and who you're bringing up. You mentioned a lot about the guys, and I'm, of course, with my Empowering Women arm,
Uh,
I'm excited to see that, the steel event that's coming up, it has a whole day dedicated for women in the steel industry.
Absolutely.
yes.
You talked
Absolutely.
on the panel there or something. Can you tell us about that organization?
Yes, that's Women of Steel, and I think it's been around for a few years now. And one of Rachel and Schmidt is one that's very, very, very big in it. and invited me to come a couple of years ago when the last time the show was in Nashville. And it was interesting. I believe now they're approaching 500 members. If I'm not mistaken, that's what I'm hearing. And I know for a fact that probably I'd say 30% of the managers, at least in the mills now, are female.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the evolution taking place, and it's great. It's great. And they hold their own. They get in there. They put their hard hats on, and they're fearless.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. I have two daughters myself, and two young.
I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah,
two daughters
two
here,
daughters, grown daughters.
Yeah, and then
I can't imagine them doing that, but they've got good careers. But like I said, it is fun to watch. But in each quick little story, what I intended that meeting that once. They broke us into, I think there were maybe 30 of us in the room. And they broke us into like 6 tables of 5, whatever. And I was sitting with a professor, I was sitting with another gentleman there, and I had a young lady sit next to me, and I said, "Oh, where are you from?" And she was from South Carolina. But she had gone to school, and I said, "Well, they of course they selected me to be our chairman for this little meeting for our table." And I said, "I want you to speak." This young lady, she had, I think, was a veteran in Iraq in the military, and she went to school on the GI Bill to become a welder. And she was a welder.
Yeah.
She was a welder out in,
Absolutely.
she was a welder out in South Carolina for this company that her father was a manager at, but he was seated at a different table, not with us. And she says, he didn't help me at all get in. I got myself in. And I said, I want you to speak with me about whatever the questions were. And she says, I can't do that. I said, oh, yes, you can. And actually, when she did a great job, and my point to everybody in the room was, because I think the whole exercise was, at what point do they start recruiting women more intensely? High school? You wait to college? And when do you start the whole steel mill thing with somebody? That's a career. And this young lady, I said, she's the poster girl for what you're looking for. Yeah. Right here, standing right next to me. And she was so eloquent when she spoke, and she felt so good about it. And when the thing was over, her father came up to me and he said, thanks for doing that. You didn't have to. I said, but it was neat. And I saw right there, that was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And you could see just the momentum it was gaining. And even like last night too, it was very dominated. The meetings, the dinners, 300 people last night. And it's great to see. I really enjoy seeing it.
Yes, and I think that was just an example you gave us of what empowering women looks like. So being able to speak that life that yes, you can talk. Go ahead and join me up here on the stage, and you're going to add value to this group. So that's just an example of you doing that. And so that's what it looks like, everybody, to be able to do that. So I'm excited about that. The AIS show that is taking place in Nashville. That's the day before that. That's the Sunday where the women's luncheon will take place. And then that event, it's gone on for several years.
Yes.
It's not new, but it's exciting right now for the steel industry.
Yeah, had a very modest beginning, but now it's really gaining momentum, and I could see it. Just Bob and I went down to Nashville last year for an energy summit, and Bob got inspired. We got invited to present, and again, it was a nice attendance there from all over. And it's just fun to see them all over the country. So.
Well, and things have changed, right? And there's a lot of activity. I mean, there's a new administration that always changes things. But as we look at kind of where the steel and energy sector is going, there's a lot of excitement around that too. So, what type of projects or anything that you're working on or you're seeing out there?
Well, yeah, it's interesting when Kristen, had first approached us, about doing this podcast. And she presented it as energy savings in the steel mills. I said, well, Kristen, you have to understand that that's really not the driving motive in the steel industry. A lot of the energy savings projects that we've done and some of the mill people that we've worked with have gotten national awards for the efforts that they've made. But a lot of the initiative was off of reliability. The equipment was unreliable, so we went out there to revamp and redesign and re-rate the equipment to make it more reliable. I'm presenting at this AIStech, I'm talking on winning the trifecta of efficiency, reliability, and sustainability. And of those, reliability and sustainability are the buzzwords. That's what, those are the ESG reports that we need to submit. And efficiency is just kind of the tag along. And what I'm trying to emphasize to people is two things. Technology has so dramatically changed just over the last 10 years that things that were you could only dream of 10 years ago are now practical everyday applications today. So you need to broaden your horizon as to what the solutions are that are available for you. And number two, reliability and efficiency go hand in glove. You can't get higher reliability without increasing the efficiency. And if I go out there to increase the efficiency, as a natural consequence of that, I'm going to improve the reliability of the equipment. So it really is that trifecta. And oh, by the way, when we do that, we are addressing all of the carbon zero issues. We're addressing the ESG issues that everybody begrudgingly has to submit reports on. And so it's really a win-win situation for everybody. But so many of the local mill department heads are not aware of that. So my job is to educate them and go, no, what we did last week is completely different from what we're doing this week. In the seminars, Charlie, I tell people, I said, for you young guys out there, I really feel bad for you because during your career, technology is going to be changing so rapidly, it's going to be like trying to run across quicksand. If you stand still too long, you're going to sink and get mired down into antiquated, technology. And yeah, I mean, all bets are off.
Well, I tell you, I love this, and also I'm like cautious, right? Because
Yeah,
you do have to go ahead and jump in and start using some of these,
yeah.
well, AI, machine learning, all of these things.
Oh, absolutely.
Learning it and knowing that it's going to continue to adapt and change, and you need to be able to pivot as well. So it's this
Oh,
constant
absolutely.
learning, which I think we are used to it now, this kind of change, the rapid change, but it is going to accelerate even quicker. So if you're doubting whether you should get on board, you need to get on board and take some type of learning, some type of
Absolutely.
education
Yeah.
around this.
Yeah, I tell the young kids to buckle their seatbelt and keep their hands and feet inside the vehicle at all times because it's going to go fast. It's going to go places. And there's a practical side of that, Charlie. I mean, we do a lot of re-rates as redesigning new impellers and whatnot. And for example, if you take an impeller, there might be 50 different control points that goes into the design of that impeller. That in and of itself means that there's 5,000 different varieties of that impeller. Which one do you choose for that? And that's where AI is coming in and jumping in and going, no, we'll do all that heavy lifting for you. We'll do the 5,000 iterations for you in seconds, and we'll spit out the perfect designed impeller for you. And then, oh, by the way, technology now allows us to email those drawings down to our company in Houston to where we don't make patterns anymore. We make an advanced mold to where we're using a sand printer that's printing out foundry sand in an adhesive, much like an inkjet printer prints out droplets on a sheet of paper. This is printing out the mold, and you push play, you go home, you play with the kids, you chase a dog around the yard, you come back in the morning, there's the mold that you need to take down the street to pour some hot metal in there, and there's your impeller, that perfect impeller. And it's just,
I know it's wonderful and it's so exciting for people.
I just can't. And so that's what I need to convey to that because a lot of the mills, their focus is on getting product out the door, production at all costs.
Tons per hour.
Tons per hour. And it's hard to get them to stop for a minute, take a big breath, and stop with this. If good enough is good enough, then how are we ever going to get better? So what we did yesterday and to do it today, just because that's the way we've always done it, no. And yeah, Ken and I played games. We've done a major project for this mill. We're saving them $850,000 a year in energy savings. And then we take that and go down the street to the next mill and go, you know what the guys up the street are doing here? They're saving money on this project, need to get on board.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, that's just learning people, isn't it? You have done
It
that.
is.
You've
Yeah,
learned
absolutely.
how people play together and how to get them to motivated to go. So, well,
Yeah.
I could talk to y'all all day about this. I love it. I absolutely think that y'all, well, so much knowledge there for everyone, but also just fun resources, have a conversation. So I'm telling all of you listeners, if you haven't gotten to sit down at one of these dinners, make yourself available to go attend one of these events that they're speaking at. Talk to them.
Local chapters
chapters.
throughout the U.S.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
look up for the AIST local chapter. And yeah.
And the show's coming up in less than, I think, about 3 weeks. And if you get down there, it's, like I said, it can be 8,000 people, but it'll be great. It'll be great. Those shows are terrific.
Yeah.
Yes. And y'all share this episode. It's going and share it everywhere, all over the social media networks. I know we're traditionally we like to just share on LinkedIn, but go ahead and share it to other people. Send them a text message of this video. I think it's great to be able to share just some amazing industry professionals in our pump industry, but in the important industries of life. We can't do anything like you just look around and you're just like, okay, I wouldn't have any of this comfort without our industry. So share this, and I look forward to, I'll be in Africa, so I'm going to miss the event, but I will see you at the next one. I'll be at Reliable Plant, which is in Chicago.
Sure.
Coming up in June.
Stop by and see us when
Yeah,
you're
stop by and see
Oh,
us. Yeah.
I have to do that when I'm in Chicago. I love a tour. Always something cool, some type of huge pump I've never seen before.
We'll show you the latest and greatest.
Yes, yes. Well, thank
And
you
don't
for your
forget about
time.
our Wednesday webinars. Every Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month, we do a 90-minute free webinar. And these are on pump related topics, but it's like a college level course show to where we really get into it. We just did one on pump types and applications. So if you're new to the industry, we just went through every type of OH, BB, and VS pump according to the API specifications, where they're used, and some of the pitfalls and what you needed to look out for. So it's and that's a free webinar available to anybody who wants to sign up for it. So.
Well, I will make sure to link to that in the show notes for sure for everybody so that they can get on board with that and be part of their Wednesday schedule that they're going to be
Absolutely.
activated. And I can't let y'all go without a little rapid fire. So quick questions here, okay? But what is your favorite book?
I'm a pastor. I've
Yeah,
got to say the Bible.
He reads the Bible.
I've got to say the Bible. I'm trying to think of something a little bit more philosophical than that, but no. Yeah,
Jesus was a great leader, so that's a good
absolutely.
one.
One of our years ago, we were given a book called "It's Your Ship," and I forget who the author was. A great book. Mr. Harris gave one to everybody that attended our sales meeting in Las Vegas. We took the whole company out there. It was nice. And the gentleman came and spoke. He was a retired Navy captain, I believe. I forget his name at the time, but it was called "It's Your Ship." It was a great book, great book.
I love it. Look it up.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Well, you're a priest. Go ahead.
Well, no,
You know what? My father told me one time, and I just told this to somebody the other day. In the business world, you believe half of what you hear, 3/4 of what you see, and 100% of what you experience. And I've always kind of lived my life by that.
By experience.
And and that's mine, but that's where I'm at.
when you said that, Charlie, Ken and I have always shared information back and forth. And there's times you're gonna not life just isn't a smooth road all the time. And when you hit those rough spots, our common phrase was the last chapter hasn't been written yet, Ken. Last chapter hasn't been written. So just press on,
I love that. Okay, now here we go. This one's for our young generation coming in. What advice would you give a young professional coming into the pump industry?
I've always wanted to. Everybody's going to feel secure when they find a position to where they're unique. Find that niche, find that thing that you can do that nobody else either wants to or can do. And when you do that, you're going to secure yourself a position for that. I didn't start off to be in training, but that's kind of where I wound up. And it's kind of gotten to be my niche, and I enjoy doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's the market's growing. The industry's growing. There's new technology all the time coming on the market.
Yeah.
And customers they still need support. And for the younger people that want to enter into the steel industry or any other industry, I think it's best when a young guy comes in, get to know the people around you that know the department and know how you're doing things. And it may be someone that you may not even work with, but he may be an electrician. He may not be involved with the pumps hydraulically, but he'll say, this is how we do things here, 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 because they know what works and they know what doesn't work. Just like with Bob and I, we've been doing this a long time. And when you meet these young guys, they'll say, we're thinking about putting seals on these pumps. We're like, did that 14 years ago. Didn't work out.
Not a good idea.
What about if we do this? Did that 20 years ago. It didn't work out. And that's what we're here for. Just to tell them the pros and cons of doing things.
But you look at the changes that have taken place in the industry in the 50 years that I've been there. It's that change is compressing, and the rate of change is exponentially accelerating. And so, yeah, the difficulties that we have today are going to be solutions tomorrow. You know,
I love that.
Yeah,
what else I think is just the ability to talk to people, to have resources, to, have somebody to call. And that is going to be key because of the amount of change that's going to happen. We are going to don't retire. We need y'all as consultants forever. Okay.
I tell people this is either purgatory or penance, and the outcome's the same. I got to stay at it for longer. I jokingly, Charlie, I tell everybody that this is my penance for all those misapplications that I did back on the application desk 40 years ago, because the design that we put into the pumps back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s was deficient. And so a lot of what we're doing now is, with the understanding we've gained from computational fluid dynamics, we're going, oops, what we did back then we shouldn't have done. So we're going back in and correcting those. And so, yeah, it's
making it right. It's all
absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well,
making it right, making it better.
Yes, absolutely. And you're making people and their lives better as we go too. So thank y'all for that. Thank you for your time with me. I just absolutely loved getting to know you. Every time, Bob, I've talked to you several times before, but I get to know something else every time. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So, okay. Well, share the episode, send me people that are cool that you meet in the industry. Let me know about them. And until next time, everybody, be empowering.
Thank you.
Thank you.